There he lay all night long, weary and disheartened. When morning came, the wild ducks flew up to have a look at their new companion. "What sort of creature are you?" they asked, as the duckling turned in all directions, bowing his best to all of them. "You are terribly ugly," they told him. "But that's nothing to us so long as you don't marry into our family." Poor duckling. Marriage certainly had never entered his mind. All he wanted was for them to let him lie among the reeds and drink a little water from the marsh. There he stayed for 2 whole days. Then he met 2 wild geese, or rather wild ganders, for they were males. They had not been out of the shell very long, and that's what made them so sure of themselves. "Say that, comrade," they said. "You're so ugly that we have taken a fancy to you. Come with us and be a bird of passage. In another marsh nearby, there are some fetching wild geese. Oh, nice young ladies who want to know how to quack. You are so ugly that you'll completely turn their heads." Bing, boom, shots rang out in the air, and these 2 ganders fell dead among the reeds. The water was red with their blood. Bing, bang! The shots rang out as a whole flocks of wild geese flew up from the reeds. Another volley crashed. A great hunt was in progress. The hunters lay under cover all around the marsh, and some even perched on branches of trees that overhung the reeds. Blue smoke rose like clouds from the shade of the trees and drifted far out over the water. The bird dogs came splash, splash through the swamp, bending down the reeds, and they rushed on every side. This gave the poor duckling such a fright that he twisted his head about to hide under his wing. But at that very moment, a fearfully big dog appeared right beside him. His tongue lolled out of his mouth, and his wicked eyes glared horribly. He opened his wide jaws, flashed his sharp teeth, and splash, splash, he went on without even touching the duckling. "Thank heavens," he sighed. "I'm so ugly that dog won't even bother to bite me." He lay perfectly still while the bullets splattered through the reeds as shot after shot was fired. It was late in the afternoon before things became quiet again, and even then, the poor duckling didn't dare move. He waited several hours before he ventured to look about him, and then he scurried away from the marsh as fast as he could go. He ran across field and meadow. The wind was so strong that he had to struggle to keep his feet. Late in the evening, he came to a miserable little hovel, so ramshackle that it did not know which way to tumble, and that was the only reason it still stood. The wind struck the duckling so hard that the poor little fellow had to sit on his tail to withstand it. The storm blew stronger and stronger, but the duckling noticed that one hinge had come loose, and the door hung so crooked that he could squeeze through the crack into the room, and that's just what he did. Here lived an old woman with her cat and hen. The cat, whom she called Sonny, would arch his back purr and even make sparks, though for that you had to stroke his fur the wrong way. The hen had short little legs, so she was called Chicky Shortleg. She laid good eggs, and the old woman loved her as if she had been her own child. In the morning, they were quick to notice the strange duckling. The cat began to purr, and the hen began to cluck. "What on earth?" The old woman looked around, but she was short-sighted, and she mistook a duckling for a fat duck that had lost its way. That was a good catch," she said. "Now I shall have duck eggs, unless it's a drake. We must try it out." So the duckling was tried out for 3 weeks, but did not lay one egg. In this house, the cat was master and the hen was mistress. They always said, "We and the world," for they thought themselves half of the world, and the much better half at that. The duckling thought that there might be more than one way of thinking, but the hen would not hear of it. "Can you lay an egg?" she said. No? Then be so good as to hold your tongue. The cat asked, Can you arch your back and purr or make sparks? No. Then keep your opinion to yourself when sensible people are talking. The duckling sat in a corner, feeling most despondent. Then he remembered the fresh air and the sunlight. Such a desire to go swimming on the water possessed him that he could not help telling the hen about it. What on earth has come over you? The hen cried. You haven't a thing to do, and that's why you get such silly notions. Lay us an egg, or learn to purr, and then you'll get over this whole swimming business. But it's so refreshing to float on the water, said the duckling. So refreshing to feel it rise over your head as you dive to the bottom. Yes, it must be a great pleasure, said the hen. I think you must have gone crazy. Ask the cat, who's the wisest fellow I know, whether he likes to swim or dive down in water. Of myself, I say nothing. But ask the old woman, our mistress. There's no one on earth wiser than she. Do you imagine she wants to go swimming and feel the water rise over her head? You don't understand me, said the duckling. Well, if we don't, who would? Surely, you don't think you are cleverer than the cat and the old woman, to say nothing of myself. Don't be so conceited, child. Just thank your Maker for all the kindness we have shown you. Didn't you get into this snug room and fall in with people who can tell you what's what? But you are such a numbskull that it's no pleasure to have you around. Believe me, I tell you this for your own good. I say unpleasant truths, but that's the only way you can know who are your friends. Be sure now that you lay some eggs. See to it that you learn to purr or to make sparks. I think I'd better go into the wide world, said the duckling. Suit yourself, said the hen. So off went the duckling. He swam on the water and dived down in it, but still he was slighted by every living creature because of his ugliness. Autumn came on. The leaves in the forest turned yellow and brown. The wind took them and whirled them about. The heavens looked cold as the low clouds hung heavy with snow and hail. Perched on the fence, the raven screamed, Caw! Caw! and trembled with cold. It made one shiver to think of it. Pity the poor duckling. One evening, just as the sun was setting in splendor, a great flock of large, handsome birds appeared out of the reeds. The duckling had never seen birds so beautiful. They were dazzling white with long, graceful necks. They were swans. They uttered a very strange cry as they unfurled their magnificent wings to fly from this cold land away to warmer countries and to open waters. They went up so high, so very high, that the ugly duckling felt a strange uneasiness come over him as he watched. He went around and round in the water like a wheel. He craned his neck to follow their course and gave a cry so shrill and strange that he frightened himself. Oh! He could not forget them, those splendid, happy birds. When he could no longer see them, he dived to the very bottom, and when he came up again, he was quite beside himself. He did not know what birds they were or whither they were bound, but yet he loved them more than anything he had ever loved before. It was not that he envied them, for how could he ever dare dream of wanting their marvelous beauty for himself? He would have been grateful if only the ducks would have tolerated him, a poor ugly creature. The winter grew cold, so bitterly cold, that the duckling had to swim to and fro in the water to keep it from freezing over. But every night, the hole in which he swam kept getting smaller and smaller. Then it froze so hard that the duckling had to paddle continuously to keep the cracking ice from closing in upon him. At last, too tired to move, he was frozen fast in the ice. Early that morning, a farmer came by, and when he saw how things were, he went out on the pond, broke away the ice with his wooden shoe, and carried the duckling home to his wife. There the duckling revived, but when the children wished to play with him, he thought they meant to hurt him. Terrified, Terrified, he fluttered into a milk pail, splashing the whole room with milk. The woman shrieked and threw up her hands as he flew into her butter tub and then in and out of the meal barrel. Imagine what he looked like now. The woman screamed and lashed at him with the fire tongs. The children tumbled over each other as they tried to catch him, and they laughed and they shouted. Luckily, the door was open, and the duckling escaped through it into the bushes, where he lay down in the newly fallen snow as if in a daze. But it would be too sad to tell of all the hardship and wretchedness he had to endure this cruel winter. When the warm sun shone there once more, the duckling was still alive among the reeds of the marsh. The larks began to sing again. It was beautiful springtime. Then, quite suddenly, he lifted his wings. They swept through the air much more strongly than before, and their powerful strokes carried him far. Before he quite knew what was happening, he found himself in a great garden where apple trees bloomed. The lilacs filled the air with sweet scent and hung in clusters from long green branches that bent over a winding stream. Oh, but it was lovely here in the freshness of spring. From the thicket before him came 3 lovely white swans. They ruffled their feathers and swam lightly in the stream. The duckling recognized these noble creatures, and a strange feeling of sadness came upon him. I shall fly near these royal birds, and they will peck me to bits because I, who am so very ugly, dare to go near them. But I do not care. Better to be killed by them than to be nipped by the ducks, pecked by the hens, kicked about by the hen-yard girl, or suffer such misery in winter. So he flew into the water and swam toward the splendid swans. They saw him and swept down upon him with their rustling feathers raised. "Kill me!" said the poor creature, and he bowed his head down over the water to wait for death. But what did he see there, mirrored in the clear stream? He beheld his own image, and it was no longer the reflection of a clumsy, dirty, gray bird, ugly and offensive. He himself was a swan. Being born into a duckyard does not matter if only you are hatched from a swan's egg. He felt quite glad that he had come through so much trouble and misfortune, for now he had a fuller understanding of his own good fortune and of the beauty when he met with it. The great swans swam all around him and stroked him with their bills. Several little children came into the garden to throw grain and bits of bread on the water. The smallest child cried, "Here's a new one!" And the others rejoiced, "Yes, a new one has come." They clapped their hands, danced around, and ran to bring their father and mother. And they threw bread and cake upon the water while they all agreed, "The new one is the most handsome of all. He's so young and so good looking." The old swans bowed in his honor. Then he felt very bashful and tucked his head under his wing. He did not know what this was all about. He felt so very happy, but he wasn't at all proud, for a good heart never grows proud. He thought about how he had been persecuted and scorned, and now he heard them all call him the most beautiful of all beautiful birds. The lilacs dipped their clusters into the stream before him, and the sun shone so warm and so heartening. He rustled his feathers and held his slender neck high as he cried out with a full heart, "I never dreamed there could be so much happiness when I was an ugly duckling."